Hi, I'm pretty nervous about making this video. um, Before I say anything else, I'd like to say just a quick disclaimer. This is no hate towards Noah Kauser or anyone else who promotes these same ideals or values or morals or line of thinking, or anyone who saved themselves for marriage or who wants to save sex for marriage. I'm not hating on anyone's personal life decisions or personal choices or personal values at all. I hope that people will return me the same courtesy. I know that probably is not going to happen though. Um, the truth is that most people are not going to see this video. Hardly anyone will. At least I don't think anyone's going to watch this video. But I'm making this video anyway, just in case that happens. So the first thing I'd like to say is kind of an explanation. So anyone who doesn't know, there's a video by Noah Kauser. He's like a YouTuber and a teacher and a motivational speaker and yada yada yada. He's a person who makes content. When I was in middle school, 6th grade to be exact, I stumbled upon probably his most known work, his most famous video, What Every 8th Grade Girl Needs to Hear. And since seeing that video, I have thought a lot about things. A lot has changed. My perspective on things has changed. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I first saw that video, like I said, when I was in 6th grade, so around the age of 12. I'm 17 now, and I'm a junior in high school. When I first saw that video, I thought it was pure genius. And looking back on it, it's strange to know why, because at the time I had already sort of deconstructed a lot of those purity culture values that were instilled in me growing up. But for whatever reason, I totally thought that this video was pure genius and that it was incredible and amazing and that I needed to show everyone. A lot of the video I still think is pure genius. I'm not here to bash the entire concept of the video. I'm not here to bash everything that he said, everything that the video went over. I'm here to sort of deconstruct the main takeaway. The main takeaway of this video was that you should save sex for marriage simply because, as a woman, your value is somewhat depleted if you don't. That's a mouthful, that's a lot to take in, and I'm going to explain why. This is my version of what every 8th grade girl needs to hear done right. From an actual girl, from a teenage girl, might I add, and someone who was an 8th grade girl not that long ago and who lived it, and someone who was affected by this video in question. The first thing that I want every 8th grade girl to know is that virginity is not real. Virginity. When we think of virginity, we think of this concept of a woman's body somewhat changing. I've heard all of these myths, I've heard all of these stories. Maybe you haven't, but I did. Growing up, I was heard and told things like your body physically changes, or you open up more, or the classic story about the breaking of the hymen. Listen, most women, we're going to get a little into biology here. Most women have different vaginas from each other, but generally speaking, when it comes to the hymen, people are thinking of it as like a circle thing that is covered up that you punch a hole through. That's not how that works. The hymen, think of it more of like a scrunchie, kind of like a hole situation, but it was always a hole to begin with, never really covered up by anything. People think of it kind of like something that you punch through. In reality, it's more of a scrunchie, something that you can fit through. But enough of the sex ed conversation, that's a whole nother video. A whole nother video. I mean, virginity as a concept is not real. It's not. There's no scientific evidence to conclude that it's real. Nothing about your physical body changes after the first time you've had sex. There could be some discomfort, or there could be some other things. There could be reactions from your body, but your body is not Optimus Prime completely changed forever after the experience. That's just bullshit. It's not true. It's straight up a lie. The idea of virginity, the concept in itself, if we're talking historically, really just comes from men who thought that their dick was so important that it changes who a woman is as a person. It doesn't. It's all a lie. It's a lie. And I will tell you why. So as far as why virginity isn't real, I'm going to tell you that it's not real simply because not only is there no biological change, but there is nothing inherent inside of you that you are losing. Virginity is this concept that you have something and then you're losing it. Or better yet, you have something and you're giving it away. There is nothing to give away because sex is not inherently something that you're giving to someone. It's something you're having with someone. And that seems to be the disconnect. People think that as women, they give away sex. They think it is something for men and only men, and that they're giving it to them like a gift. The honest truth is, it is not a gift that you wrap up in a pretty box with a pretty bow and give to someone. It is an experience that you're having with someone. It is not, like I said, a gift that you're physically giving. It is an experience that you're going on with this person. It's an adventure, in a sense. Think of it more as you and me are going on a trip together, and we're going to make lots of wonderful memories, and we're going to take lots of pictures. Maybe not lots of pictures. We're going to have lots of fun. It's going to be a memory that you and I are both going to share. It is not something from within me that I'm giving you. It is something that together we have created. That is the first thing. The second thing is that you may be wondering about how virginity is a real thing. You may think, well, virginity is real because it is your first experience. Again, it could be your first experience, but it is not something you're losing. It is something you're gaining. When you go on a trip with someone, when you go on an adventure with someone, did you lose a part of yourself because you went on an adventure with someone? Did you lose part of yourself because you did something with someone? Simply not true. Because you had an experience, you did not lose anything, you gained something. You gained the memory, you gained the excitement, you gained the experience. You gained something. Let's make that overly clear. Virginity is a social construct. It is not real. That's it. That's it. It's not real. It's as simple as that. It's not real. I did not give something to someone. I had something with someone. We shared an experience. That's the difference. And now let's talk about why it's kind of sexist, this idea of virginity. So the number two, the second thing I want every 8th grade girl to know is that this video and the idea of virginity in itself makes you out to be property, and why you are not property, and why you should not view yourself as such. Throughout this video and throughout purity culture as a whole, there's this narrative that gets pushed, especially upon women, and pretty much mostly only on women, of you are worth nothing or worthless or not as valuable as before if you've had sex. Now, there's a few different analogies for this. There's some people who they've seen the analogy of the stick of gum, where you pull out a fresh stick of gum and you say, oh, who wants this stick of gum? And everybody wants the gum. And then somebody chews it up, and then they say, who wants it now? And then they say, oh, well, once you've had sex, you're a chewed up piece of gum and not a fresh one anymore. It's a lie. And I'll tell you why that is just straight up not true. If you don't think that that comparison is equating women to property, let me put it in perspective. When you go shopping, let's say you're going furniture shopping. and you go furniture shopping, you walk into this store and you're looking at a couch, you're looking at a coffee table, you're looking at different items of furniture, and you see one that is used up. You see one that is kind of disheveled, destroyed, however you want to say. Maybe it has a lot of marker everywhere. Maybe it's just completely destroyed. It's clearly used and it's been already used once before, or maybe multiple times. It's clear that you're not going to want to buy that piece of furniture. You're not going to want to buy that couch or that table or that item. Now, that's the analogy for what you want to buy in terms of objects, in terms of products. Now, as far as women go, women are human beings. They're live, sentient people. I'm not an object. So if you say, well, because you've had sex, now you're used, or your value has depleted, or you're worthless now, it's like you're shopping for women. It's like you are taking us as property. I am not the used couch. It's not the same. You're treating women like property when you do that. It's simply that true. If you say, oh, well, I don't want this used up piece of furniture because it is disheveled and destroyed, that makes sense. If you say, I don't want to date you or be with you because you have had sex and now you are destroyed, that's ownership, not love. It's as simple as that. Because if you do not own someone, then their experiences are their experiences. It's their own. Their body. Their body is theirs. It's their own. If you tell me that I am not allowed to have had a previous history before you, physically speaking, with my body, that is ownership. That's ownership. It's ownership. I am not property. You don't buy me at the furniture store. It's simple as that. I didn't realize that in this century we needed to have that conversation, but it is still deeply ingrained at the core of this argument. It is still deeply ingrained at the core of this video and of these teachings. I am not property. You're not buying me at the furniture store. The third thing that I want every 8th grade girl to know, and every woman in general, is why your worth is not based on virginity. We touched a little bit on this, but I'm going to go in depth. In the video, he had hearts. He had paper hearts, and what he would do is he would take a piece every time a woman had sex or did anything sexual or had even the smallest sexual experience. So, what he said was, here's the heart, and the heart is you. The heart is you. The heart is your worth. It's everything. And he took the heart and he started ripping it into pieces. He said, this is you. You've had your first kiss. There goes a piece. This is you. You've slept with someone. There goes a piece. This is you. You held hands with someone. This is a piece. The smallest little things. And it's not even, throughout the video, he didn't even make it only about virginity. That was the main big one. But he made it about even small sexual or even romantic encounters. Just small ones. Even a first kiss he saw as, this is a piece, you're now worthless. Women are not based on how you can own them. Their value is not based on how you can own them whatsoever. It's not true. It's simply not true. If I today went and did all of these sexual things with someone, my value is not any less for the next person that I'm doing something sexual with. It's simply not true. There's no basis for it, because if you look at the way he was talking to the guys, people don't often talk about this, but he has 2 videos. He has the speech that he gave to a whole classroom of 8th grade girls, and then he has a speech that he gave to a whole classroom of 8th grade boys. The overall message in the video directed towards the young guys is that you shouldn't have sex before marriage. as a way to keep it fair for your future wife. Not because their value is depleted. He didn't put a heart in their face and start ripping pieces off. He didn't say that their value would be depleted whatsoever from who they were originally and what their value was originally. They simply said, as a way to make your future wife feel better, you should also abstain because you want your future wife to abstain. He gave the example of, think about what your future wife is doing right now. Don't you want her to stay clean for you? Don't you want her to stay a virgin for you? That's simply disgusting. To say that as a woman, what I have to give to someone and my values is based solely on sexual experience is completely wrong. You don't need to be the first to be special to someone. You don't need to be the last to be special to someone. It's just not how that works. Again, if you're going on a trip with someone and then they say, "Oh, have you been here before?" and you say yes, does that make it any less special? If you really think about it, no. Because yes, I've been to this area before, but I've never been to this place or done this, and it's a completely different experience. Just because I went on a trip doesn't mean I'm going necessarily to the same place. It's the same thing. Women have this tendency, in most societies, to give too much of themselves. And you know what? This video and things like this is the reason. The reason why we don't value ourselves as much, generally speaking, or why lots of women tend to undervalue themselves is because they have this warped idea that they are to be given to a man, that they are a prize to be won, that they are the trophy wife. You see it in films even. It's every culture perpetuates it, really. At the end of films, after this guy has fought all the bad guys and he's won all the missions, he goes back and he finally gets the girl. She is the reward for all that he has done. And that brings me to something else. Women aren't vending machines. You cannot put quarters in and expect sex out. It's simple as that. It's like this video and this concept of purity perpetuates that, okay, if I marry her, if I spend time talking to her, if I date her, if I give her even just the slightest bit of attention, she should give me this back. Everybody is looking at this all the wrong way. It's all about perspective. Women are not vending machines, and sex isn't something that men do to women. It's something they do with women. That's the big shift. It shouldn't be seen as something that you're doing to a woman's body. It should be seen as something that you're doing with her, just in general. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about my personal experience with the video in general. So when I first saw it, like I said, I was in 6th grade, and it meant a lot to me. It did, because when you're a female in the world, you tend to be overly insecure. And you know why? Because the world is pushing that narrative upon you. The world is pushing a narrative of you should be insecure. And so this video, along with all the other things it said, oh, well, you should feel confident, you should feel beautiful as a woman, and that's all very true. You should. But then the main overall concept, the big gist that everyone is taking away from the video was kind of sneakily put in there. Amongst all the self-love stuff, he kind of low-key just hid and slid in a message of stay pure. And that caused issues for me. That did. It created a situation where I was thinking, well, what if my value is based on this? Your value is not based on what you can give someone with your body. Your value is based on so many other things. It's based on who you are as a person. It's based on the way you treat people, the way you treat yourself. And just the overall kindness and hard work and drive, and most of all, resilience that you have. Your value is based on who you are as a person, not experiences that you may or may not have had. Like I've said a million times now, sex is not something you do to women, it's something you do with women. Like I've said a million times, sex is not a gift that you're giving to someone, sex is an experience that you're sharing with someone. I've said sex so many times and virginity so many times in this video that anybody walking by this room in the hallway is probably very concerned and very confused, but it's fine. Yeah. Now I'm gonna talk briefly on my personal experience with purity culture and delve a little bit more into that, and then we're gonna wrap back around into more about the video. Purity culture. If you don't really understand what that means, I've said it a few times now. It's the idea that you are to save yourself for marriage because otherwise you're not clean or you're not good. And it's a terrible concept. It's often pushed by a lot of religious leaders and a lot of religious people, especially in Christian congregations and evangelical congregations, some Jewish communities, some Muslim communities. It's an idea that's pushed in just religion in general. Now, I'm not saying that every religious person or every religious congregation is like this, because that's definitely not true. That's definitely not the case. I'm just saying that a lot of them are. That when you hear about purity culture, most oftentimes it is displayed in a religious setting, most oftentimes. I grew up Catholic, very, very Catholic family, and from a young age, those messages were pushed on me. Most definitely, they were pushed on me. I will say though, just to give sort of perspective, I guess I could be a little biased because I'm now an atheist. 100% I'm an atheist. Bit of a pagan atheist if we want to get like very specific. But I'd like to think of myself as more of a secular atheist at the end of the day. Pagan in tradition, not necessarily in practice or belief. So, I'm very atheistic in a lot of my views, if not all. And purity culture was something that was really big in the Catholic Church. It was extremely big. In fact, it was kind of vital to the teachings of Catholic Church. Which brings me to this other thing. Religion has a weird obsession with sex, and specifically women involved in sex. And it's so strange to see why so many churches and so many beliefs and so many walks of faith are very much so obsessed with women's sexuality for whatever reason. And that's just the way it is. I remember even going to other people's churches, like friends of mine. And I remember one time in specific, they were having a small youth group amongst the women, and they framed it as a girls' night. It was really just a trap to play this video, is the honest truth. There was a video where they talked about, I'm not gonna say who the video was from, because that's not giving clout to to that video, but there was a video talking about why you shouldn't marry people who are not Christian or who are outside of the church, which is another thing I don't believe in. And it delved a lot into why you should save yourself for marriage. And the overwhelmingly huge takeaway of this video that we're talking about and the churches in question is that the reason why women should wait till marriage is simply because sex, their body, them, their lives, who they are, is a gift for a man to use and for a man to serve. It's literally just for you to give yourself to someone else wholeheartedly. Which, look, if you want to give yourself metaphorically, wholeheartedly to someone and spend the rest of your life with them, that's great. I'm not bashing that. What I am bashing is you thinking that sex is you. That sex and your sexuality and your virginity is you as a whole, and that is what you're giving. That I have a problem with simply because your value is not coming from a place of sexuality, nor should it ever. Simple as that. Like I said before, we're not furniture shopping here. Which brings me to the common phrase of like, oh, well, women wearing makeup is false advertisement for men. You only advertise things that you're trying to sell. I'm not selling myself to you. That's not what this is. Women are not products that you buy. This is not a product. I'm a human being. So there you go. And now I'm going to talk a little bit about why it's okay to date. I've lost track of counting. I don't know what number we're on. Why I think it's okay to date, because this man makes it sound like if you are young and you're dating, not only are you wasting your time, you are just like basically cheating on your future husband. Which, now listen, he doesn't just make it a point to say that young people, he means people in general. Like, he's like, if you're not ready to find a husband or wife, no. Here's my thoughts on that. I am perfectly fine with people saying that they don't want to date because to them the long-term goal is marriage and they're too young to even consider marriage. That's fine. But honestly, I don't think in my mind that the goal of relationships is marriage. And marriage is a very old and outdated concept. However, I'm not saying that it's bad necessarily. If you want to get married, that's great. Good for you. But he naturally assumes that all the girls in the room that he's talking to and the millions that he's talking to on the internet naturally want to get married. He assumes it naturally. He assumes this and he goes on with this assertion. The truth is that marriage has been pushed upon women for centuries, for a long, long time. Because if you really think about it, marriage is the exchange of property, historically speaking. A long time ago, and still in many places in the world today, this isn't even history, it still happens in many places of the world today, where women are simply property, like actually property. And it's more of an exchange. It's okay, I'll give you my daughter in exchange for XYZ. Give me a horse or something, which is absolutely crazy. And if we're also thinking of marriage, not that long ago, we're thinking of a business sense. It's really more of a, I have a kingdom, you have a kingdom, let's bring our children together, let's make them align, so that way we can have more power, more money. Rich people and monarchs used to do that a lot. Marriage in itself is really just transfer of property from a girl's father to now a girl's husband. It's sick. It's gross. Now, marriage in modern day terms, we like to think of it as we marry for love. We like to think of it that way. I'm not saying it always is that way, but for the most part, it seems to be that way. If you get married for love, that's great. But that brings an even bigger question to mind. You're telling me that you're going to marry someone who truly and wholeheartedly believes that they couldn't love you if you had been with someone else? Because if that's true, they don't love you. They love the fact that they get to feel special to you. That's not true love. They love the fact that they can own a part of you wholeheartedly. Loving someone does not mean that you are going to base their value on previous experiences whatsoever. Simply not true. If you truly love someone, you love them for who they are. You love their personality. You love their kindness. You love the way that they talk. You love things about them. You don't love experiences that happen to them. Imagine if we took this experience and we applied it with every other experience too. Like, imagine if I said, oh, well, I love you and all, or at least I would, had you not made that one mistake 2 years ago, or had you not seen this 2 years ago, had you not done this 2 years ago, or this one small thing. We don't love people based on their previous actions before we knew them. We love people based on who they are. If you marry someone and they say that they wouldn't have married you had you not been a virgin, they don't actually love you. They love owning you. They love that you're the new piece of furniture. They love that you're the trophy. It's really quite that simple. There's this thing called unconditional love, and if you believe in purity culture, you definitely don't have it. That's for certain. All right, the next thing that I'd like to bring up, why is this in a school setting? Like, if you really think about it and look at the video, he's talking to a group of middle school girls and a group of middle school boys. Great, fine by me. It's fine by me. In fact, I encourage middle schools to have sex ed and sexual education. To my understanding, this is what they're framing as their school's sex ed. They're teaching complete and total abstinence, which, let's just talk about the scientific side of that. Statistically speaking, that makes no sense, and that's not helpful at all. There's evidence to show that if preaching abstinence doesn't actually create abstinence. It doesn't. Like, some people who are young teenagers, they're going to have sex and some won't. The point is, though, you teaching abstinence doesn't really help. I like certain things about this talk. I like that he talks a lot about confidence and self-worth, although I don't necessarily think he goes about it the best way, and every example that he gives. I like the overall general concept. What I don't like is that that was framed as a sex ed class. um, Sex ed, there was no real talk or conversation about how sex actually works. So that's just a really bad sex ed class. Also, telling girls that they are not as valued and not as worthy anymore once they've had sex is a personal opinion. It's not a fact. It's not. It's a personal opinion, and I could be wrong. I could be, but judging by some of the things this guy said, I'm assuming that a lot of this comes from his personal moral values, possibly Christian values. I'm not quite sure. But the truth is that's a personal opinion. And unless it is a private Christian school, which maybe it is, but he didn't really make that assertion, so I'm left to assume that it's a public school, is not helpful. And it's also kind of not okay, because if you really think about it, it's pushing a religious view, a religious mindset in a public school, which is illegal. So, saying that someone, more specifically women, because that's who he's talking about, women are not as valuable if they've had sex, is very much so a personal opinion. Great, have that personal opinion. Keep it the fuck out of 8th grade girls' minds and ears. Keep it the fuck out of schools. It doesn't have to be anywhere near there. That's simply not okay. Because now you've seemingly changed a lot of those girls' minds about things, or maybe reaffirmed their opinion. Who knows? But the truth is, their parents didn't consent to that. Maybe they consented to a sex ed class, but they didn't necessarily know that they were preaching abstinence. Maybe they did, but we have no evidence to conclude that for sure. So that part's a little iffy. That part's I'm not too sure about. But there's a lot of messages that had nothing to do with sex that I don't think parents of these 8th graders consented to. And 8th grade is a very pivotal, formative time for a lot of people. And so giving them this speech and molding their minds to see themselves as nothing but sex, to see their worth coming from nothing but sex, is simply unfair and not okay. I'd also like to add that this video kind of sexualizes these young girls. Like, there's no reason for that to be the case. He made sex sound so dirty and so shameful unless you're married to the person. Like virginity, marriage is a social construct. And putting all this shame and dirtiness surrounding sex can only cause issues for people later down the road. So, yeah. The other thing I'd like to discuss is how this man made it seem very clear in his video for the 8th grade boys that they would enjoy sex or that they have sexual interests because they're young boys who have reached the age of puberty, and for the most part, they like and enjoy sex. Understandable. Okay. Or at least they have an interest in it. What he fails to mention is that these girls have also reached the age of puberty, and a lot of them, if not all, also have an interest in sex. He pretends as though women don't find sex enjoyable, or he pretends as though it's something 100% for the guys that he's talking to and not at all for the men. And listen, it's simply just not okay. He talked a lot about how girls kind of go against each other and how they hate each other for the most part. 8th grade girls can be vicious to each other. And as someone who was once an 8th grade girl, I can tell you that's true. They're very mean to each other. But he kind of puts the blame on us for that. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that we feel the need to be mean to each other? It's a competition most oftentimes. And the truth is that women aren't necessarily as vicious to each other as the world likes to make it seem. Sometimes it can be that way, but overwhelmingly it's just people naturally assume that a woman being assertive or not overly smiley and happy is aggressive for whatever reason. And so the truth is that oftentimes women probably aren't being mean to each other. They're just not being overly friendly. But I will admit there are times where girls can be pretty vicious to each other. But I don't think that's of any fault of their own. I think that behavior and that feeling to do that sort of stems from this idea that they're in competition with each other all the time. And why are they in competition? It's like they want to be the trophy who's being won. It's quite sad. It's very true. I just... This video tries to tell you that your value comes from sex and sexuality, and that your heart is ripped up every time you do something with someone who you don't wind up being with forever. But the truth is that even if you are with someone in a committed relationship and you have sex with them or do anything with them and then the relationship doesn't work out, that doesn't make it all of a sudden not a valuable experience, and that doesn't deplete your value. And the reason why is because we are in an ever-changing universe. Nothing is forever. I am a living person right now. One day I will not be. One day I'll die. This is the room that I'm in currently. One day, another room, something else, another building will be here. Nothing is forever in our universe. Everything is constantly changing. And you can be with someone long term for the majority of your life. That's possible. But just because you're not with that same one person forever doesn't mean it wasn't valuable at all. That's like saying, I had a friendship that didn't last forever. Does that mean that you don't enjoy those memories? Does that mean that you do not take away any lessons that you've learned from that friendship? No, it doesn't. And relationships, dating ones, are no different. And it doesn't have to last forever to have been successful. To me, a successful relationship is healthy and, for the majority of the time, happy, and it helps you learn about yourself and other people in the world more. If you learned something, If you learned something, if it was healthy, if the majority of the time was happy, it was successful. It was. If you have great memories to take away with you, it was successful. We need to stop looking at lives and ourselves and our bodies as something that is given to others or something that we put forth to others, and start noticing that we're sharing. You share a dating relationship with someone else. You don't give it to them. You share sex with someone else. You don't give it to them. You share quality time and quality ideas with people. You don't necessarily give it to them. If you marry someone, I'd like to think that you are thinking of it as, I am sharing my life with them, not giving all of my life to them. So there's that. And this next part of the video is going to be less about the Noah Kauser video and less about purity culture as a whole, and more about just my personal story. I'm kind of scared for this video to go on the internet. I don't really think anyone's going to watch it or see it, and if they do, they probably won't like it. But anyone who knows me personally, if they stumbled upon it, they probably wouldn't be too thrilled about it. Me personally, not that it's anyone's business, because it's not. I'm not a virgin. I'm not. And I don't feel any regret or shame around that whatsoever. And listen, had I still been a virgin to this day, I still would have stood by this position, because my mind changed about all of this long before that ever happened. Long before. It's just, we should stop looking at it as this was my first time and think of it more as this is our first time together. I have received a lot of slut shaming and a lot of terrible things being said to me because I'm not a virgin. And you know what? I don't think that's of any fault of my own. A lot of people would say that I brought that on myself, or I was asking for that. I don't think that's any fault of my own whatsoever. I don't. Because it wasn't me who decided to shame myself for something that most humans, naturally want to do, something that they naturally enjoy, and something that can be very loving, even if it's not within marriage. It's not someone else's place to judge me, but even if it was, I don't think they should. I did nothing wrong, and I regret nothing, and I'd do it all over again if given the opportunity. I'm not going to tell you any more information about like who I've had sex with or how many people I've had sex with, because it's really no one's business, and it's not really anyone else's assertion to make. So yeah. And I will tell you that being a woman can be very lonely, especially when people judge you for things. There's kind of this double standard amongst women. For the most part, if you're a female and you're a virgin, you're seen as this perfect, pure angel, and you're amazing and you're beautiful, but you're also seen as kind of boring, and you're also seen as kind of not that fun. And if you are a woman who's had sex, well, automatically a whore. Even just the first time you're a slut, you're seen as worthless now. And both are unfair assertions to make, because both are placing value and traits upon women for things that have nothing to do with who they are. Get to know women. We're not these one-dimensional figures. We're not like We're not cardboard cutouts, we're real people. Get to know us and you will find out that we are way more than what's between our legs. It's such an unfair and sad assertion. In fact, my parents personally, they had found out that I had had sex and they shamed me relentlessly. It ruined my life for months. It did. It did. And they judged me harshly. In fact, I still don't think either one of them have really gotten over it. I still think that it is a problem to them. But I ask you, why? Why should it be? Why judge someone for something that you wouldn't judge a man for? Why judge someone for something that is a natural part of human life? Why judge someone for something that they enjoyed? Why judge someone for something that made them happy and hurt nobody? Why judge them for something that is going to be a treasured memory when they look back on life? Why judge them for something that is simply pure and innocent? I'll say it, I think sex can be pure and innocent, and people get this assertion that it's dirty or it's wrong or it's shameful. I don't think it is. And I know I said before I wouldn't say anything. I'm not going to say names because personally I don't feel as though it's my place to give out names of people that I've slept with. I've only slept with 2 people. And I don't really think 2 people can make me considered a slut or a whore. If you think so, fine, but why? In fact, what number? When do you reach the threshold? What makes you a whore, you know? When do you reach the threshold of, oh, okay, what's the borderline? What's the number? Is it 2? Is it 3? Is it 4? Is it 10? Is it 20? How far does it go? Because it seems to me that one time in people's eyes makes you a whore. And if one experience one time makes me this evil, villainous slut to other people, those other people are clearly not seeing me as a human. They're seeing me as an object. They're seeing me as property. Simple as that. And a few other things to mention about my personal story. I had been shamed not only by my parents and by anyone who knew, but by people at my school. I got slut shamed, and you know what? I got slut shamed even before I did it. As a female, you don't even have to do anything to get slut shamed. You simply just have to show your shoulders. You simply just have to look at someone in what they consider to be a seductive way. You simply just have to exist. Everyone is looking to sexualize women. Most women like sex. Women are naturally sexual creatures, but that doesn't mean that that's all that we are. You don't have to over-sexualize us. You don't have to. It's simply not true. So, my takeaway for this, a few other things before I finish this off, is just, I'd like to also mention that he assumed that every boy in the room that he was talking to was straight. And he assumed that every girl in the room that he was talking to was straight. The truth is that this is a really bad sex ed class, because not only is it like completely not telling you anything you need to know and ingraining possibly detrimental ideas into your head, it also fails to mention that sexuality exists. It fails to mention that being gay is a possibility for people. And it fails to mention that being asexual is a possibility for people. If you're gonna have a sex class, make sex ed correct. Make it go right. I think that there's a lot of things about this video that were okay. Like, I like the idea that self-worth is important. I don't like the idea that self-worth is important because of a possibility of a man coming into your life. That I don't like. He said very clearly several times that all women are beautiful, and I wholeheartedly agree with him. All women are beautiful. But why does it matter? Why is that the most important thing? You know, when you really think about it, maybe women shouldn't have to value whether or not they're physically beautiful. You know what women need? They need to be told that they're beautiful, but they need to be told that they're funny, that they're smart, that they're talented, that they're resilient, and that they don't need anyone besides themselves, and that they define who they are and they define their worth and not somebody else and not sexual activity. Yes, all women are beautiful, but why does it matter? Why is that the most important thing? If you're a girl, if you're an 8th grade girl, because it's directed towards you, 8th grade girls, I hope you know that you are beautiful, but why is that the most important part of you? Why is that the thing you're so worried about? Don't be worried about other people's approval. Don't put yourself in the pigeonhole of trying to be the nice looking furniture that he wants to buy. You're not an item, you're not a product, you're not false advertising. None of that is on you. So, to take away, I regret nothing, and anyone who sees this video who might possibly know me and judge me and shame me, fuck you. I don't care who you are, because I don't need your judgment and I don't need your validation. And I've come a long way to be able to say that. That's not easy for me to say. It's not easy for anyone to say, especially a young girl. I don't really care if you think I'm a whore, because I know that that's based on nothing. It's based on an idea, a concept that isn't even real. It's based on pure sexism. That's just the truth, and no matter how you want to phrase it, you can't change that. That's fact. There's really no reason for this narrative to be pushed so hard. But that's the truth. So no, I don't regret having sex. I don't regret making this video. And I 100%, like I said at the beginning, respect your views, and I respect your decision to wait or to not wait. And I respect if you don't even want to get married at all. Whatever it is you want to do, that's great. But I expect the same courtesy back. So, to all the 8th grade girls, I'm sorry that the world is pushing this crap on you, and I'm sorry that this man took his singular perspective on this, and maybe possibly consulted his wife. But that's only one other female, that's only one other person. I'm sorry that he took the perspective of himself and his limited knowledge and understanding on a very complex topic and regurgitated it back at you. And I don't even blame him, because he believes those things wholeheartedly because he's been told and taught those things. Those things, those values of you are worthless if you've had sex, has been pushed on him. I can't even blame him. He seems like a genuinely nice guy. It's not even his own fault. It's the world's fault. I'm sorry that so much of the world wants to attack you and hurt you, but know that your value is not based on what you do or don't do with your body, or if you do or do not open your legs to someone. Make that overly clear. And I'd also like to quickly add that if you're someone who has been sexually assaulted or has experienced rape, this is in no way changed you because of virginity. Again, nothing was taken from you. Nothing was taken from you. whatsoever. If it's not really consensual, it's not really sex if you truly think about it. Nothing was taken from you. This man is going to make you feel like something was taken from you, but that's just not true. And honestly, virginity is a concept. It's a social construct. You define what that means for you personally. So if something did happen to you, I urge you to get help and to seek out help as soon as you can. But most importantly, it's important that you know that doesn't really define you in any way, and that you didn't really lose your virginity, because virginity isn't real and it's a social construct, and you get to decide when that happens and how that happens. And that goes for everyone. So, I've been talking for over 50 minutes now. I'm going to end this here. If anyone does see this video, thanks for watching, and I don't know, let me know what you think. Just know that the overall takeaway is your value is determined by you.